Listen, contrary to popular belief, not all fish are created equal. Some are divas, some are downright useless, and some, well, you'll never see them after you put them in your tank. But let's talk about the most overrated fish in the hobby that you will find at your fish store. Alright, so you're at the pet store, you're all hyped up about setting up your dream tank, and then boom, you see the black skirt Tetras, all elegant and mysterious. They look sleek, they move in sync, and you're thinking, oh, these would totally make my aquarium look classy. But hold up. Before you swipe your card and bag a few, let's talk about the chaotic energy that these little guys bring to your tank, because they might just be the passive-aggressive coworkers of the fish world. First off, they have a reputation for being fin-nipping little menaces. If your idea of a peaceful tank includes fish gracefully coexisting in harmony, well, black skirt tetras might have other plans. The moment you introduce them to a tank with slow-moving, long-finned fish like angelfish or bettas, it's like they've been handed a free-for-all ticket to cause drama. You ever seen a group of kids at the playground who just have to mess with a quiet kid? Yeah, that's them. They can't help themselves, and if you don't keep them in a big enough group, they'll turn their attention to whoever they can annoy. Basically, if there's chaos to be had, they'll be at the center. And don't even get me started with the Glofish version. Now, I get it, glow-in-the-dark fish sounds like the most futuristic thing ever. It's like totally giving Tron Legacy vibes. It's giving I want my tank to be a rave party vibes, but when they're genetically modified for color, the original hardy nature gets nerfed. So now, instead of having a fish that's both pretty and resilient, you get a glowing, slightly weaker version that still wants to commit tiny crimes in your tank. And yeah, they look dope under some blue lights, but are you really willing to put up with the main character energy at the cost of your other fish? Because they will make their presence known, and not in a good way. If you're really set on them, keep them in a proper school of at least 6, otherwise they're just going to be chaotic individuals picking fights for no reason. They'll also need some space to zoom around, because if they get bored, well, there goes your community tank's peace treaty. So yeah, aesthetic? I mean, absolutely. But peaceful community member? Oh, that's a hard maybe. The Discus Fish, the royal family of freshwater aquariums, true hype maintenance influencers of the fish world. The ones who demand a full-time personal assistant, a VIP-only Fiji water quality standard, and the finest luxury conditions just to exist peacefully. If fish could post on social media, Discus would be the ones taking skincare routine videos to the next level because they require a ton of maintenance. These fish need their water to be pristine. Not just clean, but like influencer who refuses to drink tap water level clean. They thrive in warm, soft, slightly acidic water with temperatures that basically turn your tank into a sauna. If your idea of tank maintenance is a casual water change every couple of weeks, these fish are gonna humble you fast. Like super fast. They require multiple water changes every week because if even a single parameter's off, well, they're not having it. They will stress out, they will stop eating, and they will vibe miserably in the corner contemplating their existence. Oh, and if you thought these guys were being just dramatic, nope. It's all because they've been wild caught for years, which means they still expect conditions to be as close to their natural Amazonian habitat as possible. Unlike other fish who have been bred in captivity for generations and learned to be a little more chill, Discus are still out here acting like they just got teleported from the wild and refuse to adjust. And honestly, kind of iconic. But wait, there's more here. These fish aren't just sensitive to water quality, they're also extremely social. You have to keep them in groups because a single Discus will vibe in sadness, possibly developing stress-related illnesses. And if you want to breed them, well, hope you're ready to witness one of the weirdest yet most fascinating parental behaviors in the parental fish world. Yeah, anyways, Discus parents literally produce a special slime on their bodies that their babies eat. Yes, their fry don't just swim around looking for scraps, they latch onto their parents and consume Discus nutrients from their flesh. You could explain this to someone who has no idea about fish keeping and they'd probably think that you are making up your own horror story. Discus are undeniably gorgeous and they can be an absolute flex in your tank, but unless you're down for the aquatic equivalent of raising a herd of delicate show ponies, just know what you're signing up for. Personally, I'm a fan of Severum, the poor man's Discus. Alright, let's talk about Oscars. These are not just fish, these are pets, the wet dogs of the aquarium world. These guys will stare at you through the glass, they'll recognize you, and they will beg for food. They'll probably judge you if you forget to feed them on time. If you've ever wanted a fish with the personality of a golden retriever and the size of a small submarine, well, Oscars are that guy. Now here's the thing, a lot of people see baby Oscars at the pet store and they think, oh cute, what a little fella. What they don't realize is that baby Oscars grow, and they don't just grow a little, they become absolute units. These fish can hit 18 inches long. That's not a casual pet store fish, that's a commitment. they need massive tanks, like at least 75 gallons, but preferably more. If you try to keep them in a tiny setup, you will quickly realize that an unhappy Oscar is not a fun Oscar. They will sulk, they will wreck their tank, and they'll generally let you know they're not pleased. Speaking of tank wrecking, Oscars have big personalities. They will redecorate your tank on their own terms. That nice aquascape you just spent hours setting up? Oh yeah, they're just gonna move everything. Rocks? Shifted. Plants? Uprooted. Decorations? Tossed. They love rearranging their space, and you just have to accept that your tank is their world now. You're just living in it and maintaining it. They're also known for their intelligence. Oscars can recognize their owners, learn feeding routines, and even develop quirks. Some will literally wag their little tails at you, yes, really, and others will spit water at you when they're hungry. And some will just straight up sulk if you ignore them. But don't be fooled by their friendly dog-like nature. When it comes to tank mates, they can get pretty territorial. If another fish enters their space, it's game over. Oscars will throw hands, or fins in this case, and they'll assert dominance. So, should you get an Oscar? Well, if you have the space, the patience, and the willingness to deal with their antics, absolutely. But if you're just looking for a casual fish to add to your community tank, hard pass. Bettas are basically the overbred show dogs of the aquarium world. Everybody knows them, everybody loves them, and yet the fancy long fin variants are the equivalent of high maintenance influencers who got plastic surgery that they didn't need. You see those gorgeous flowing fins? Yeah, those are also their biggest downfall. All those extra fins slow them down so much. They try to swim across the tank and it's like watching someone run with a parachute strapped to their back. And because they move slower, they're way more prone to things like fin rot and stress-related illnesses. Also, fun fact, Bettas breathe air. They have a labyrinth organ that lets them take in oxygen from the surface, so if they get stuck under heavy decorations or struggle to swim properly, well, guess what? It's a bad time. And don't even get me started on dragon eye bettas. Someone really said, let's selectively breed a betta until it grows scales all over its eyes and slowly goes blind. And the fish keeping community just went along with it. If your fish literally loses its vision because of how it was bred, maybe we should take a step back. So yeah, fancy bettas are pretty, but at what cost? So you're at the pet store and you spot this fish labeled Chinese algae eater, and you're thinking, perfect, man, this little dude will handle all the algae in my tank. But let's pump the brakes for a second. The name algae eater is, well, it's a bit of a misnomer. Sure, when they're young, they might munch on some algae, but as they grow, their diet preferences shift faster than trending TikTok dances. Instead of sticking to the algae, they develop a taste for slime coats of their tank mates, which is like the fish equivalent of someone stealing your moisturizer and then eating it. Yeah, gross. These guys can grow up to 10 inches long and they become increasingly territorial as they mature. And that aggressive behavior is not just a phase, it's a lifestyle. They've been known to harass other fish, especially those that are slow moving or have flat bodies. Sometimes even going so far as to ripping off scales, leading to infections. So if you were hoping for a peaceful community tank, introducing a Chinese algae eater might be akin to inviting a drama magnet into the group chat. In summary, while the name suggests that they're the ultimate solution to your algae problems, the reality is more complicated. Their changing diet, potential for aggression, and significant size make them a challenging addition to most home aquariums. It's like expecting that chill lo-fi playlist, but getting heavy metal instead. Well, listen, I love them both, but you know, your expectations are expectations. Anyways, goldfish are often the go-to starter pet, but there's a lot more to them than meets the eye. The common slim-bodied varieties like the comet goldfish can grow up to 18 inches long. This requires substantial space to thrive. A 20-gallon tank is just the starting point. As they grow, upgrades to 50, 75, or even 100 gallons might be necessary. So if you're thinking of keeping one in a small bowl, dude, that's a major faux pas. Fancy goldfish varieties such as bubble eye or pearl scale have been selectively bred for unique physical traits. However, these aesthetic modifications often come with health challenges. For instance, the bubble eye goldfish has fluid sacs under its eyes, making it prone to injuries and infections. Similarly, the pearl scale's rounded body can lead to swim bladder issues. This affects buoyancy and overall quality of life. Kind of like wearing high fashion that's super uncomfortable. I mean, it looks great, but at what cost? Moreover, goldfish are notorious for their waste production, leading to rapid declines in water quality if not properly managed. And as you may know, this necessitates a robust filtration system and regular maintenance to keep the environment healthy. And they're social little creatures. They thrive in groups, which means that you're going to need even more space to accommodate multiple goldfish. In essence, keeping goldfish is a commitment that goes beyond that initial appeal. Their size, specialized care requirements, and potential health issues demand careful consideration and, more importantly, preparation. Bala sharks are often admired for their sleek metallic appearance and shark-like fins, making them a popular choice among aquarium enthusiasts. However, their appealing looks come with significant considerations. Firstly, Bala sharks are schooling fish, meaning that they thrive in groups. Keeping them in isolation can lead to stress and erratic behavior. A proper school consists of at least 4 to 6 individuals, which immediately escalates the space requirements that you need. Considering their potential size, you're looking at a tank that's not just large, but massive, often exceeding 150 gallons. Additionally, Bala sharks are active swimmers requiring ample open space to navigate. They're also known to be jumpers, so a securely covered tank is essential to prevent any adventurous escapes. Their peaceful nature means that they get along well with other community fish, but their size can be intimidating and smaller fish might become accidental snacks. While Bala sharks can be a stunning addition to any aquarium, their size, schooling nature, and space requirements make them, well, impractical for most home setups. Prospective owners need to be prepared for the substantial commitment in terms of tank size and maintenance required. Guppies are often hailed as the starter pack of aquarium fish, thanks to their vibrant colors and hardy nature. However, these little guys come with their own set of quirks that can turn your tank into a live episode of a reality show, and not the good kind. First off, guppies are prolific breeders. We're talking blink and you've got a dozen more levels of reproduction. A single pair can lead to a population boom, overwhelming your tank faster than you can say overcrowding. This isn't just a space issue. Overcrowding can lead to increased waste, spikes in ammonia levels, and general decline in water quality. And while those colors are attractive, some aquarists find guppies to be relatively common, lacking the unique appeal of other centerpiece fish. Their small size and ubiquitous presence in the hobby can make them seem less special compared to more exotic species. Additionally, guppies have a reputation for being somewhat delicate despite that hardy label. They can be pretty susceptible to various diseases, especially in overcrowded or poorly maintained tanks. Their active nature means they also require a well-balanced diet and regular monitoring to ensure that they're thriving. While guppies can add a splash of color to your aquarium, their rapid breeding and specific care needs require thoughtful management. Without proper planning, you might find yourself in a guppy overload, turning your peaceful tank into a bustling metropolis of tiny fish. Despite their slow growth rate, clown loaches require ample space to swim and explore, necessitating a tank size of at least 100 gallons once they reach adulthood. Many people pick them up as cute little 2-inch fish at a pet store, not realizing they'll eventually turn into tanks. And here's the kicker, because they're social fish that need to be in a group, that means you're not just committing to one large fish, but at least 4 or 5. Suddenly, your "I just wanted a fun little bottom dweller" decision has turned into an entire squad of oversized energetic loaches that need their own swimming pool. Another thing people don't talk about enough, clown loaches are absolute escape artists. If there's a way out of your tank, they're gonna find it. They're known to wedge themselves into tiny crevices, slip through the smallest gaps, or even jump out of open tanks when they get too excited. If your tank isn't properly sealed, you might wake up one day to find your clown loach has decided to go on a very ill-advised adventure to your floor. Speaking of, let's talk about quirks here. Clown loaches have this habit of randomly lying on their sides playing dead. I mean, imagine walking up to your tank and your heart dropping because you thought your fish has met its untimely demise, only for it to just pop back up and swim around like nothing happened. That's just Tuesday for a clown loach. They also make these like little clicking noises when they're excited or during feeding time, which is both endearing and slightly unsettling if you're not really sure what's going on. Despite their playful and interactive nature, clown loaches come with a few challenges. They are incredibly susceptible to ick, which is also known as white spot disease, often acting as the first warning sign that something's wrong with your tank. Their scaleless bodies make them sensitive to medications, meaning that treatment has to be done carefully, and they require a varied diet with a mix of pellets, live foods, and even vegetables because, just feeding them the same old bottom feeder wafers just ain't gonna cut it. I'll admit, they're one of the most entertaining fish in the hobby. Clown loaches are not a casual addition to your tank though. They require larger setups, consistent care, and a commitment to maintaining a proper school. If you're willing to put in the work, they will reward you with quirky behavior, funny antics, and surprisingly social interactions. But if you were just hoping for some small bottom feeder to casually add to your tank, well, these guys might end up being way more of an investment than you bargained for. Oh, Glofish, the neon club kids of the aquarium world. A glowing, genetically modified spectacle that is supposed to bring a futuristic cyberpunk aesthetic to your tank. Well, at first glance, they seem like the ultimate eye candy. Bright, fluorescent, and impossible to ignore. But let's address the glowing elephant in the room. These fish are not just vibing in your tank with no consequences. There's a whole list of reasons why glowfish might not be the flex you think they are. First of all, let's talk about why they glow. These fish have been genetically modified with fluorescent proteins originally found in jellyfish and coral. Yeah, you read that right. Science basically took a regular fish and said, "What if we made it into a living highlighter?" Cool concept, sure, but here's the issue. The modification doesn't just make them glow, it also seems to have nerfed their durability. The hardiness that their natural versions had, well, you can kiss that goodbye. In fact, many aquarists report that glowfish are way more sensitive to water conditions than their non-glowing counterparts. That means that they're more prone to stress, illness, and, well, not thriving. And here's the part that gets real messy. Not all glowfish species are suitable for community tanks. People see them in pet stores and assume they're just peaceful little party fish, but newsflash, some of these guys are not meant to play well with others. The most notorious offenders? Well, that goes to the glowfish rainbow sharks, glowfish black skirt tetras, and glowfish barbs. Regular rainbow sharks are already semi-aggressive and territorial, and making them glow doesn't change that. Meanwhile, glowfish black skirt tetras inherited the same fin-nipping tendencies as their non-glowing relatives, meaning that they can be absolute menaces in a tank with long-finned or slow-moving fish. And do I really even need to talk about barbs? And let's not ignore the ethical debate surrounding these fish. Some hobbyists argue that genetically modifying fish purely for aesthetics is questionable at best. Others really don't mind because, well, they do look cool. At the end of the day, if you're considering glowfish, just be aware of what you're getting into. They need stable water conditions, appropriate tank mates, and more importantly, an owner who isn't just buying them because they look like they came straight out of cyberpunk. Ah, the Pleco, the supposed cleanup crew of the aquarium. The fish that everyone and their grandmother's been told will eat all the algae and keep the tank spotless. Well, let's just set the record straight right now. Most Plecos suck at their jobs. Not only do they not often clean the algae effectively, but they also end up producing way more waste than they could ever remove. First off, let's talk about how big these guys get. A lot of people buy common Plecos thinking that they're just gonna be a small, efficient little vacuum cleaner for their tank. Fast forward a few months though, and suddenly this small fish is the size of a literal burrito, taking up massive amounts of space and turning your once aesthetic tank into a full-blown Pleco enclosure. These things can reach up to 24 inches long. That's not an algae eater, that is a miniature catfish that needs an entire river system to thrive. And if you get a smaller variety, the reality is that most Plecos are straight up messy. They have a ton of waste output. And that means whatever algae they eat is immediately negated by the sheer amount of bioload that they create. Think of it this way. You hire a cleaning service, but instead of tidying up, they track mud all over your carpet. That's your Pleco. On top of that, Plecos don't just eat algae. A lot of them require a varied diet, including veggies and proteins. If you are not supplementing that food properly, they can starve to death because that thin layer of algae on your tank walls is not enough to sustain a full-grown Pleco. Some species actually prefer wood. That's right, there are Plecos out there gnawing on driftwood like a dog, eating big old bone. Yep, and if they don't like the right diet, guess what? They're gonna be miserable. So if you were thinking a Pleco is gonna be an easy way to avoid cleaning your tank, well, sorry to break it to you, but you might as well grab that algae scraper now. They look graceful. They move with elegance. They give off that sophisticated aquatic centerpiece vibe. But once they hit breeding mode, it's absolute evil. See, when people get angelfish, they're thinking that they're getting a peaceful community fish. And for a while, they're chill. They swim around, they mind their business, and they look aesthetically pretty great. But then one day something shifts. Suddenly they're picking fights, they're chasing tank mates and staking out territory in a tank that previously seemed fine sharing. And if they start breeding, oh, it is over. They will defend their eggs with the energy of a paranoid security guard. It doesn't matter who is in the tank with them, they will go after anything that gets too close. They're also notorious for their selective tank mate tolerance. Some angelfish can be kept in a peaceful community tank, while others, not so much. If they feel like asserting dominance, they will go after smaller fish. And if they're with anything larger or equally aggressive, well, they might be the ones getting bullied instead. It's a game of Russian roulette with their personalities. Another thing people don't realize is that angelfish get big. You can see them in pet stores as cute little 2-inch fish, but give them time and they'll grow into absolute units with a height of up to 10 inches thanks to those long, dramatic fins. That means they need vertical space, so no tiny, shallow tanks. If you're planning to keep an angelfish, just get prepared. They might start off as peaceful members of a tank, but once they decide they own the place, they own the place. Neon Tetras used to be the go-to fish for beginners. They were colorful, small, and easy to keep, and that made every tank look vibrant. But, times have changed. Thanks to decades of overbreeding and mass production for the aquarium trade, Neon Tetras are no longer the hardy little fish they once were. The biggest issue? Well, they've become fragile, seriously. This fish used to be resilient. Now they seem to drop dead if you so much as look at them the wrong way. Your water parameters fluctuate a little? Well, they're gone. Stress from being transported? Gone. Random Tuesday afternoon? Gone. And I've even talked about neon tetra disease. They are so delicate now that keeping them alive can sometimes feel more difficult than taking care of more advanced species. And another problem? They don't just like to be in groups, they need to be in groups. You can't just grab 3 or 4 and call it a day. They do best in schools of at least 10, ideally more. If you try to keep just a couple, they will stress out and eventually waste away. And while they're often marketed as a peaceful, nice community fish, well, they do have a little bit of a feisty side. They can get pretty nippy, especially if they don't feel secure in their group. So, if you were hoping for a calm, slow-moving community, don't be surprised if your neons start acting a little more chaotic than you expected. The sad reality is that neons have lost a lot of their original appeal due to mass production. This fish that once thrived in almost any setup now requires careful acclimation and stable water conditions. They're still stunning to look at, don't get me wrong, but if you're thinking about getting them, make sure you're ready to put in more effort than you probably anticipated. Alright, let's just take a second to acknowledge the absolute audacity of Flowerhorns. Someone somewhere looked at a normal cichlid and thought, you know what would make this better? If we made its forehead massive and gave it the temperament of an MMA fighter who just lost a match. And boom, the Flowerhorn was born. So, first things first, the giant bump on their head? Yeah, the cock, yes, that's its actual name. Serves zero functional purpose. It's not a brain, it's not a built-in Wi-Fi extender, it's literally just a big, fleshy, fluid-filled blob that breeders selectively enhanced over generations because, well, apparently, someone thought it looked cool. And believe it or not, in some places, the bigger the bump, the more valuable the fish. Get this, there are actual competitions where people flex their Flowerhorns based on, cock size. But let's get to the real problem. Flowerhorns are angry, like permanently. These guys are the epitome of wake up and choose violence every single day. They are some of the most aggressive freshwater fish that I know of in existence. And so, that means keeping them with tank mates, well, unless those tank mates are also aggressive cichlids, you're basically just putting other fish on a, sacrificial altar. Flowerhorns will harass, chase, and outright murder anything they don't like, which is basically everything. They'll even attack their own reflections because that's how deeply embedded their grudge-holding hatred is. And then there's the size issue. Flowerhorns can grow up to 16 inches long, and they need huge tanks, like 75 gallons minimum per fish. You can't just plop one in a regular community tank and hope for the best. You need space, you need filtration, and, well, you need patience, because their personality is a mix of hyperactive toddler and a dude with a short fuse in a bar fight. But the real kicker, despite how aggressively unhinged they are, Flowerhorns actually bond with their owners. They will recognize you, they'll follow you around the tank, and they'll even beg for food like a dog. Some people swear they are incredible pets because of how interactive they are. And sure, if you're looking for a fish that stares deep into your soul and demands constant attention, well, maybe a Flowerhorn is for you. But if you're expecting a peaceful, easygoing tank setup, hard pass, man. So imagine buying a pet and never seeing it again. Well, that's exactly what happens when you get a Kuhli Loach. You set up their tank, you introduce them, and you get so excited to watch their little eel-like bodies wriggle around, and then poof, they're gone. Just like your motivation to go to the gym, what is it, March? Yeah, you stopped going 2 weeks into January. Let's be real, okay? Next year. Anyways, Kuhli Loaches are experts at disappearing. They're the Houdinis of the aquarium world. The second they hit the water, they're already scouting every crack, crevice, and possible hiding spot to never be seen again. They burrow into the substrate, hide behind decorations, and wedge themselves into tiny spaces where you swear no fish could be able to fit. You might even forget they exist until one randomly surfaces at night like a cryptid making a rare public appearance. And speaking of night, that's pretty much the only time when they're active. Kuhli Loaches are nocturnal, meaning that while you're going about your day, they're tucked away in their secret lair, living their best lives in total darkness. And if you ever want to actually see them, you're gonna have to bust out the red lights and hope they feel brave enough to show themselves. But while they are sneaky little gremlins, they're also incredibly peaceful. They don't mess with other fish and they don't start drama. They just kind of vibe in the background, assuming you ever see them. Yeah, they do best in groups of at least 5 or 6, so if you're considering getting some, buy multiple. They'll just get lonely and hide even more. One thing to note, if you got an uncovered tank, you might wake up one day to find your Kuhli Loach outside of it. These guys are known to wriggle their way out of even the smallest opening, so unless you want to find a surprise dried up noodle on your floor, be sure that your lid is secure. At the end of the day, Kuhli Loaches are cool, weird little creatures that can add a fun, if completely invisible, dynamic to your tank. Just don't expect them to be front and center. These guys are the definition of out of sight, out of mind. And that's the rundown on some of the most overrated fish in the hobby. Whether they're troublemakers, divas, or just plain impractical, knowing what you're getting into is key to a happy tank and your sanity. Have any thoughts? Well, drop a comment below. Tell me if I just called out your favorite fish, or maybe you've got a horror story to share. And if you found this helpful, hit that like button, subscribe for more brutally honest fish keeping takes, and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next one. Thanks for watching. Keep your tanks clean and choose your fish wisely. We'll catch you next time.